Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of Say It Loud. Tonight, my guest will be Dawson Barrett, and we're going to be talking about punk rock, a certain kind of punk rock, but I'm going to start with my disclaimer. Welcome to Say It Loud. My name is John Terry. I am the host and producer of this show. The things that you will hear over the next 50 minutes represent the views of Say It Loud and the people making them. All opinions and quotations in no way represent River West Radio and are the sole responsibility of the producer, guests, and callers. River West Radio is not liable for any legal issues arising from the content of this program. Dawson, glad to have you on. Why don't we just start right away with a song and we'll come back and talk.
I know things are getting tougher when you can't get the top off the bottom of the barrel. Wide open, roar my future now. It's looking fucking new. All I know is that I don't know. All I know is that I don't know nothing. All I know is that I don't know. All I know is that I don't know nothing. We get up to this side, just like as if I'm not gonna change my mind. What you gonna do with yourself? Boy, better make up your mind. What you gonna do with yourself? But running out of time. This time I got it all figured out. All I know is that I don't know. All I know is that I don't know nothing. All I know is that I don't know. All I know is that I don't know nothing. All I know is that I don't know. All I know is that I don't know nothing. All I know is that I don't know. All I know is that I don't know nothing. That's fine.
All right, so that song, Operation Ivy, playing the song Knowledge from the album Energy, 1989. Now, Dawson, why don't you tell us what we're going to talk about this evening?
Okay, sure. So we're going to be looking at sort of late 80s, early 90s punk rock from a very specific place. But let me set it up with a couple of sort of simultaneous histories that are going on here. So one is the context of the Reagan administration in the 80s, and this period of massive tax cuts for the rich, and of course service cuts for everybody else. After school programs, housing assistance, public parks, and the like. But in addition to that, there are also some cultural factors that sort of play into this Reagan moment. If you think about Reagan's backers and who makes up the coalition that gets him elected, for one, you have sort of Phyllis Schlafly and the anti-feminists, and this translates not just into backlash against the feminism of the 60s and 70s, but also, Reagan comes out and actually opposes the Equal Rights Amendment, and it fails on his watch. Another trend that's going on here is that, post civil rights, actually the KKK triples in members between 1971 and 1980. And Reagan definitely plays into this. Gives a states' rights speech to kick off his election in Philadelphia, Mississippi, and he of course rolls back lots of affirmative action programs. And then on top of that, you also have sort of the Jerry Falwell and Anita Bryant types who are on this anti-homosexual crusade. And that is also translated into policy. Reagan ignored the HIV/AIDS crisis while it killed 70,000 Americans on his watch. Okay, so there's this Reagan context, sort of the broader political situation in America. But then there's also the history of punk and hardcore and what's going on sort of in this counterculture. And one of the things that's happening is in the early 1980s, hardcore punk starts in the U.S., and it's political in nature, and it's pretty anti-Reagan. You have bands like Reagan Youth and the Dead Kennedys, and some other militant bands like Black Flag and Minor Threat. But it's also very macho and pretty violent, really. So if you read, for example, Henry Rollins' tour diary, Get in the Van, or watch any of the interviews in the documentary American Hardcore, you hear from people who are basically talking about, macho dudes beating each other up, and that's what punk rock starts to look like. In fact, in New York City, CBGB's, where the Ramones started, stopped doing hardcore shows in the 80s altogether because it got so violent. So you sort of have this clash of these sort of negative factors, on the ground in punk rock, but also overarching. And responding to that, a group of young people in Berkeley, California started a punk venue called 924 Gilman Street. And it was all ages. It was run by volunteers. It was a nonprofit. And they established a set of policies to guide the club. No fighting, no drugs or alcohol, and the trifecta of no sexism, no racism, and no homophobia. And you can see those being related, but you can also see them as, fighting this overarching sort of Reagan-era conservatism. And that was in 1986, and the venue is actually still running. And it's become fairly well known for the bands that have come from it, Green Day, Operation Ivy, and Neurosis, to name a few. And we're actually going to listen to several more throughout your show.
All right. Well, let's go into a couple of songs. We'll play a few in a row, and then we'll come back and talk about sort of how Gilman Street operated. So we're going to start with Sam I Am, Sky Flying By, from the album Soar from 1991. And we're going to go right into Jawbreaker, Shield Your Eyes from Bivouac from 1992.
Nothing has divided you. Growing older faster than it should. Pieces of me outside your door. So you're not at home. I'd like to not wonder where you are. Blurry at my feet leave the ground. See that sky flying by. See the streetlights spin and blend. It's not a faster star. See that sky flying by. See the streetlights spin and blend. Proving it's not a faster star. So just leave it there. You can maybe pick it up. Only you can see what it was. So we'll just lay it to rest and get up and leave, knowing you'll see it lying there. See that sky flying by. See the streetlights spin and blend. Proving it's not a faster star. See that sky flying by. See the streetlights spin and blend. Proving it's not a faster star. See that sky flying by.
right, so there we had a couple from Sam I Am and Jawbreaker, and we heard from Operation Ivy earlier. So all of these bands that we're listening to coming from 924 Gilman Street. So now, Dawson, you mentioned some of the policies, and this is kids basically setting this up on their own. So how do they enforce these? How do they come up with them? Give us the scoop on this stuff.
Sure. Yeah. So actually, in a variety of ways. So, you think about just kind of any gathering of young people, high energy. There's going to be some hostility. So, they experimented with hiring off-duty police officers and security guards and security companies, and it didn't really play out very well for a variety of reasons you can imagine. I mean, right? Punk kids don't like the cops. Mm-hmm. Also, they probably don't understand the dynamics of punk. So eventually they decide, we'll just train people from among our ranks to be security, which has several advantages, right? So one of them being, you're not going to keep fighting if your buddy tells you to knock it off. Mm-hmm. Or even more commonly, you'll back up your buddy telling someone else to knock it off, right? So there's sort of that formal aspect, but I think the more interesting stuff is sort of the more subtle. So at several different times during the history of this venue, several friends would form sort of impromptu crowd control teams. So if it looks like people are starting to mosh violently, they would just surround them and break into silly dances like conga lines, just to sort of lighten the mood. So the point being that this requires, sort of collective crowd action, right? Mm-hmm. If a fight breaks out, then the show just stops, right? So that's part of the policy. There's a story of a singer from a band, jumping into the audience with the microphone and interviewing people who are getting into a fight, and so it sort of breaks it up. So there's a lot of this sort of lighthearted stuff. But also, because Gilman is very vocally anti-racist, and they put on anti-racist shows and benefits, and they're also tied to Maximum Rock and Roll, the famous punk zine, which is very prominently anti-racist. Gilman actually attracts assault from neo-Nazi skinhead gangs. And so, they come banging on the doors looking to crack heads, and, so these kids have to decide, well, how do we stop that, right? So the whole group presses against the door to keep them out. There are a couple of events where there are sort of these big brawls between punks and Nazi skinheads. So they're not necessarily pacifists. When you say no fighting, what it really means is a commitment to stop violence, and however they have to do that. And I think that's significant. I mean, it's easy if the two of us are both teachers, so to sort of maintain these dynamics in a classroom when you're an authority figure is one thing. It's another to sort of do it organically from the bottom up. So trial and error is a big part of it.
Okay, so let's move on and listen to a couple more songs here. So we're going to go from Jawbreaker and Sam I Am. We're staying actually. We're going back in time, 1989 and 1990. We're going to play Kamala and the Carnivores, Bone Bouquet from Girl Band, the 7-inch, 1989. And then we are going to play a Green Day song, Disappearing Boy, from the 39 Smooth EP from 1990.
She's like a bouquet, but I can't touch her when she looks that way. She's like a bouquet, but I can't touch her when she looks that way. Wrist locked in opposition, keep her body falling down in front of me. She falls for me, I can't
It's something to think about. Don't call me up 'cause I'm not home. My whereabouts and now I'm numb. I vanish in my eye joy. I am the disappearing boy.
All right, so there we have Kamal and the Carnivores, Bone Bouquet, from Girl Band 1989, and Green Day, Disappearing Boy, from 39 Smooth EP from 1990. One quick question, now how big is this? Is this about the size of a typical punk rock venue? Is this kind of like a couple hundred people, or...
Yeah, I think it's about that. It's a sort of a medium
Okay.
venue.
So just thinking of being able to hear with regularity like a band like Green Day with 100 of your friends there listening to songs like that, then as opposed to going to like the 40,000 person sold out auditorium right now. But back to some of the, I think that this is what's probably the most impressive thing about this, right? Is that because we listen to the sounds and really they're kind of trading on a lot of other sort of punk territories, so it's even more exciting and interesting than the music, I would say, although we are listening to the music, is the fact that, right, kids are able to pull off something that sort of sounds like a miracle. So give us a little more on that, how else they're kind of policing themselves and making this operate or work.
Sure. So I think, perhaps the area that they were maybe the least successful with would be sort of their no sexism policy. For a lot of reasons, punk rock has sort of was good on gender for a while, and then hardcore was super macho and drove women essentially out of the culture. And of course, sort of playing on bigger rock and roll, just sort of very macho, basically misogynist culture. So they tried a variety of things here. So one of them being, since Gilman was run by volunteers, there are all these different positions, right? Sound engineers and security and booking agents, and all these different roles that need to be filled. And they, sort of deliberately opened them to everyone and, offered training all the time. And so I think it matters that, lots of these young women were serving in these roles. Because I think that's empowering, and I think it also, when you visibly see that the person running sound at the show isn't, like a 300-pound white dude with a a ponytail. I think it sends a different vibe. So I think that matters. I think that it is fair to say that it is primarily the women of the club who are actually confronting people about things. Unfortunately. But there are all these examples of, women sort of getting together and confronting bands and audience members who are saying sexist things or, just doing sexist things. So, for example, there was a band playing who brought like a blow-up doll, like a sex doll, and, thought it was silly and funny. And, some women confronted them and said, that's not cool. If that's what you're about, you shouldn't be here. That's offensive. And, I think those kinds of confrontations are important, especially for young people. They also, women at the club also formed at one time just a women's only group that met to sort of discuss these issues, and I think that's important. But also, during this period that we're looking at, sort of the late 80s, early 90s, Gilman was hosting lots of sort of the feminist riot girl bands of the period, like Bikini Kill. And actually several women from Gilman actually formed their own bands. We listened to Kamal and the Carnivores, bands like that. So, to be fair, Gilman is not a utopia of gender equality. And to expect it to be, I think, is really unfair, particularly given how young people are and also that nowhere is. But I think just having that openly stated, we're not going to accept sexism type of policy, made the space at least negotiable for the people there. Again, it's mostly women who are doing the confronting about this, not their allies. But I think these anti-oppression policies actually empowered people to call each other out, right? That they say, that is sexist behavior, and we've already established that we think sexist behavior is bad, right? So I think that matters. I think that stating that publicly matters. So obviously this proved empowering for a lot of people. I don't know what you can draw from that.
We'll see. We'll go on. Let's listen to a couple of more songs here. So then we're going to go back to Jawbreaker, this time from 1994, The Boat Dreams from the Hill from the 24-Hour Revenge Therapy album. And then we are going to play another song from Kamal and the Carnivores, A Love Like Murder from the girl band 7 Inch Again from 1989.
Never gone to say I got to a face
right, so there we had Jawbreaker, The Boat Dreams from the Hill from the 24-Hour Revenge Therapy album 1994, and Kamala and the Carnivores, A Love Like Murder, again from the girl band 7 Inch from 1989. And so now, Dawson, we're going to move on a little bit, and I'm gonna ask you, how is this structured? How is this possible? Tell me about the collective nature of the venue.
So Gilman was run essentially as a cooperative. When you attend your first show, you have to buy a membership card, so you pay a few extra bucks. And you become a member, which means you agree to follow the rules, and that's how they can sort of democratically say, hey, you said you'd do this, you're not doing it, so you're out of here. But in addition to having to follow the rules, you also get full input, full democratic participation in making the rules. So this is actually very anarchistic in that sense. So they develop policies at monthly meetings. I would guess they're fairly consensus-based. But this is a really empowering experience for these people, as you could imagine, right? This is like being on the board of directors, only, everyone gets to do it. So this is a very rare experience to learn problem-solving skills, how to get along, these sorts of things. And it pays off, actually. So several times during this sort of late 80s through maybe mid-90s period, Gilman gets into a bit of trouble, whether from, neighbors complaining, that type of thing. And so because of that, they're forced to sort of, become outside activists, not just internal, right? So they, Gilman members go door to door. They go to city council meetings and testify and prepare these big speeches. They circulate petitions. Essentially they become community organizers in order to save their club, and they go out and they pick up garbage in the neighborhood and these kinds of things. So it's almost the Boy Scouts without the bigotry.
Yeah.
So it's sort of very civic in some sense. And it's about being a part of their community, right? So it's about being a part of the punk community, but then also being a part of their neighborhood and, trying to get along with people. Which is, I think probably in sort of the popular conscience, very un-punk, right? It's, you would expect them to sort of be like, fuck you, we do whatever we want, right?
Yeah.
So, I think that there's quite a bit more going on here. And I think it's says something about, different aspects of punk overall.
Well, we're going to play another song here. We're going to go to Sam I Am again, and this song is Slumbering from the Soar album from 1991.
Something that comes so easy, better than being down.
All right, so there we have. Who did we have there? Sam I Am again, Slumbering from the Soar album from 1991. And so now we have heard a little bit about the context, we've heard a little bit about punk rock, and then we've heard especially about how Gilman operated, what they did, how they did it. So, the big hurrah here, it seems like you're trying to tell us more than there was just some cool punk music going on at this venue and there was good gigs here, right? Tell us, bring us home with some conclusions here. Tell us what we can learn about this, if we can learn anything from this.
Sure. Well, it is great music. I mean, I think that's important. And I would hesitate to make any broad claims about punk overall, because punk is very diverse. But this moment, this late 80s, early 90s moment, specifically in response to hardcore, this group of punks are often referred to as sort of the peace punks for obvious reasons. And so I think one of the main things you see here is a parallel between what's happening at Gilman and sort of the anarchist parts of the New Left in the 60s and 70s. In the late 60s and early 70s, thousands and thousands of cooperative grocery stores and radical bookstores were founded, basically by activists, and they were run with consensus-based meetings. I mean, the exact same model that we're looking at here. And I think you'd also see elements of sort of the anarcho elements of the counterculture as well, like the diggers or the yippies. So that's one of the things here, and I think that that puts punk sort of awkwardly but interestingly in sort of this broader narrative of a certain type of left activism. The second thing that I think you see here is that punk is in a lot of ways a response to the neoliberal trends of this period, right? The idea that we should privatize everything, and everything should be a business. This is sort of something that's really coming into its own in the 70s and 80s. Reagan really kind of rubber stamps it. So instead of that idea that everything should be a business, punk develops an alternative economy that's based on principles, not markets. So at Gilman, which is a formal nonprofit, it's not about how do we maximize revenue, right? It's not about that at all. It's about how do we maintain a space that's safe. And Gilman would be a more formal example, but other punk venues are often just taking over private spaces. Whether the basements of rented houses. That's not only a cheap way to do it, but it's also sort of sticking it to the landlord and turning your house into a punk venue. Elsewhere, especially in Western Europe, for example, squatted, abandoned warehouses are frequent punk venues. So I think there's something going on here with the sort of reclaiming of space from capitalism. So I think that's important too. A third thing, and I think this is why Gilman is so important, is that it's really showing punk as activism, right? Putting action to these claims, these words. It's one thing to say, I'm against racism. It's another thing to fight off the neo-Nazis. So I think that's important, especially because punk, I think, gets cornered into this idea that it's fashion, right? That if you have a mohawk, or if you're just sort of nihilistic, sort of the Sid Vicious version of punk, I think that's sort of the dominating view. And I think here you actually have people, building something instead of just tearing down. They're actually trying to combat the problems that they're seeing in the world. It's proactive, it's youth initiated, it's youth organized. So I think that kind of resistance is important. And lastly, in addition to providing these spaces for youth to sort of hang out, in that sort of like social sense, and Gilman isn't the only venue like that. There are lots of punk institutions like that. But this era, this peace punk era, also produces these hugely influential bands. This is the moment that Fugazi and Bikini Kill and sort of other Riot Grrrl bands are coming out, and also this is the moment that Nirvana comes from. And I'm willing to talk about things like selling out and co-optation, and I think those are important debates to have. But I think it's also significant that for a minute in the early 1990s, the biggest band in the world was a group of gay-friendly, anti-racist, anti-bullying feminists from the West Coast. And I have to think that matters. And so, if punk can both, provide these sort of spaces of resistance and impact the popular culture, I think that's a really significant social movement, and I think it doesn't get that kind of credit.
So now we're going to cue up our 9th song of the evening from Operation Ivy again. We're going to listen to The Crowd from the Energy album from 1989. All right, so there we go. Operation Ivy, The Crowd from the Energy album from 1989. And now we're getting near the end here. We've had our conclusions. I know one thing that I think about, I know what I really like is going on here is really kind of turning punk on its head, not by revisiting the bands and looking at what they were saying and what they were doing, by actually looking at the people who were running and operating the venues, sort of where people experience this, right? Because as much as the sort of story is anyone can pick up a guitar and be in a punk band, well, there's a lot more people in the crowd, right? And so if you set these kind of examples and like you said, you're actually sort of building skills when you're doing this kind of a thing, that this is really great. So, and really punk is just so much associated with the mohawk and the middle finger, whereas you've got the people themselves, the fans, and the aspiring punks doing this on their own, so much bigger than the music. So give us your last comments here.
Sure. Well, first of all, thanks for having me again, John. Always great to see you. Also, if anyone is out there in Radio Land is particularly interested in sort of these examples from 924 Gilman, most of them are being drawn from a collection called 924 Gilman, The Story So Far, that Maximum Rock and Roll put out, so you can Google that and find it. And then lastly, I want to offer opportunities to support alternative spaces like this, all around us. Milwaukee has its own alternative art space punk venue called the Borg Ward, and also right here in River West, we have the River West Co-op and the Public House and People's Books and the Cream City Collectives, and these are essentially run on this same sort of alternative, anti-capitalist model, and I think that's sort of the key to a thriving democracy.
Mm-hmm. Do you see these as something that can be? Do you see this as something that can be expanded, or do you see it as something that is serving a purpose as it is right now? We're here in River West. Is this something that needs to grow citywide to be successful, or is this something that might work better in relation to the problems going on around it?
Well, that depends what you want from it. If it's if it serves the purpose that sort of Gilman has served for 30 years of young people. Then I don't think it has to expand. If it's sort of a, almost like a school for this process. But if you're talking about sort of the, the new world and the shell of the old, then that's sort of a different question. But that actually is sort of the same model too. Of like, if we really want to fight against, Walmart, we need to have alternatives. We need to have River West co-ops. So I think there's something there, and how interesting that. We can use that same model that we use for, organic groceries or radical books for, our entertainment too.
Which is so good stuff. And the beauty is, even when punks get old and when people move out of River West, just encountering this stuff, right, leaves a lasting impression on you. So it's not like you forget the fact that you have encountered these things. So. Very important stuff, really good stuff here. Again, my sort of partial disclaimer, all of the things that you've heard are my fault, and the radio show is not responsible. Thank you all for tuning in. I would also like to plug Jacob Glicklick's show, The Size of Thoughts, which you can hear every Tuesday night at 7 p.m., and you can find it in the archives. And you can always keep on tuning in at 10 p.m. on Monday nights for further issues of episodes of Say It Loud. Thank you, Dawson, for coming on again. Always good stuff. And now we're going to leave with another Green Day song, but this is going to actually bring us full circle in what must have been less than 1 year's time, because we're playing a cover of the Operation Ivy song Knowledge that we started out with from 1989. So here's Green Day playing their version of Knowledge on the Slappy EP from 1990. Thank you all for tuning in. Have a good night.
I know things are getting tougher when you can't get the top off the bottom of the barrel. Wide open, run of my future now. It's fucking narrow. All I know is that I don't know. All I know is that I don't know nothing. All I know is that I don't know. All I know is that I don't know. change my